Hey, good morning, everybody. Steve here from The Varied Life, and today is the question. The question is, can Americans afford retirement? And is there affordable retirement overseas? I'm seeing more and more articles online, seeing more news where seniors are making the decision in the United States to not retire because they can't make ends meet. The expenses are too high. Housing is terrible. Everything keeps going up. Property taxes going through the roof. Water, electricity, gas, all of these things keep in food. Of course, now in the recession that we're in and the bad economy, housing is going up. It's almost unattainable for a lot of people. And if you haven't paid off your house, it's you can not retire. You can work until you die. So the question is there affordable retirement for Americans? In some places in the United States, there is. But for a lot of Americans that are being polled, seniors today who have some type of pension, whether it's Social Security or some other income streams, are finding that those income streams are not enough to retire. So today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of the expenses that led to us, my wife and I, deciding to sell everything. We sold the house, the car, the truck, the guns, the ammo, the pots and pans, the everything in the kitchen junk drawer, and we made the decision to take a couple of suitcases and we went and retired overseas. We're at a time in our life where I still had to work, in the United States, and doing the math and looking at everything with the expenses that kept increasing every single year by considerable amounts, we wouldn't be able to retire. We would have to continue working. And either that or it'd get to the point of where we would retire and we wouldn't be able to save any money. So really, what is your golden years going to be? Just kind of piddling around the house and, we thought about downsizing because we had come to that time in our life where it's like, okay, well, we bought a big house, we paid it off. Let's see if we could sell this house and downsize to a retirement house, something that's small and manageable and that where we could make some money from the sale of our house that we had paid off. And we found out that it just wasn't possible, that housing prices had increased to the point of where getting a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a 1-car garage was insanely expensive. Now, back in the day when we bought our house, it was a bank-owned property. I think we got it for $135,000, and then at the height of the market, when we decided to leave and we found out we could retire overseas, specifically in Korea, because my wife has Korean ancestry, we decided to sell. And so we made a good profit on our house. I think it was $300,000-$400,000, somewhere around in there. But we made some good money, and all that money was tax-free. So we were armed with that. But if we had sold our house and was looking to get, instead of a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 5-piece master bath, 2 oversized car garage, sitting on a golf course, and tried to downsize to a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, it was insane. Where we were at and the location that we were in, it just wasn't feasible. And I'm not talking about being in New York or California or Denver. We're talking in southern Colorado. We're talking south of Colorado Springs, that housing prices that got to the point of where it's just insane. So it wasn't doable to downsize. And at that time, my wife had worked as a caregiver for seniors. She worked for a nonprofit organization, and they would give caregiving services to seniors that were low income. And that really opened our eyes to the fact that, these people were barely making it. They were in the Odd Fellows apartments, and, they were on Section 8, and of course, Section 8 housing or, lower income housing, which is, the government gives you money to make up some of the housing, is in neighborhoods that just isn't good. It's, they're ridden with crime and all kinds of things. It's drugs. It's just not good for seniors, and seniors getting assaulted. And the sad thing is that the pension or the Social Security that these seniors had was not enough to get them through the month. In other words, they had to ration their toilet paper. They had to, get they would go to like Burger King or fast food joints, and they would stock up on, napkins and condiments and things like that to try to make the dollar stretch to the end of the month. So it was really, really kind of eye-opening and disheartening at the same time. So anyway, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to talk about some of the expenses and how we made the decision to leave. And I think for us, the big thing is that we would not be able to retire until I was 70-ish, hit my 70s, and then we could retire. But even doing the projections of, say, like for example, our property tax was about $2,600 a year. Every year it would go up $100 minimum. There's times when it went up $120 a year, 110, 115, 111. But it would go up at a minimum of $100 a year. And being that I was in my, 50s, almost mid 50s, the hard thing is doing the projection out to when I could retire. The property tax is going to be insane. And then looking at the increase of utilities for electricity and water and gas and, with the air conditioning and all of that stuff, you look at the increases every year and you say, okay, well, we can kind of average this out and we can kind of project what this is going to cost in 5-10 years or whatever it is down the road. It was jarring, to say the least. And it's like, okay, well, there were seniors that my wife knew that when she was working, that they would not have air conditioning because they couldn't afford to pay for the electricity. Yeah. People, there are stories of people that were throwing away trash in their neighbor's trash because they couldn't afford trash cans. They would take their stuff to, dumpsters and fast food joints and things like that to empty their trash early in the morning because they couldn't afford the trash. So seeing all of this, it didn't fill me with joy. It didn't give me that comfortable feeling, that Marie Kondo, hey, if it sparks joy in your life, keep it. I didn't feel like I wanted to keep the American dream of where we were heading in regards to retirement. So expenses was a big driver in regards to, can we retire overseas? Now, I know there's going to be people that are going to say, I'll never leave the United States. And that's totally an option. I'm totally fine with that. I'm not telling anybody that you should retire overseas it depends. If it applies to you and it piques your interest and you can see that you could possibly retire early overseas versus the United States, pay less expenses, even save money in retirement overseas, if you have a pension and things like that, it is an opportunity for you. Doesn't mean that it's going to be good for everybody. There are people that just it's totally okay that they stay in the United States, that they never leave their small town, that they never go anywhere, do anything. That is their choice. And if they're happy with it, who am I to speak against that? Okay. But personally, excuse me, the wife and I, we weren't happy with the direction our lives was going in regards to retirement. And all you have to do is look at the articles and the projections and the surveys of who's prepared to retire. How much money do you have in your retirement account and your 401k and your savings and so on and so forth. And seniors today are woefully deficient in regards to having a certain amount of money to be able to retire. In other words, they're not on track to retire. So that's why a lot of seniors are picking up part-time jobs. That's why a lot of seniors are working in fast food restaurants. Jobs that were once for teenagers of just dipping their toe in the employment pool to learn how to show up on time, how to follow orders, how to, show up and do a good job and have a good work ethic as a starter job, not as a job that would pay you for life experiences or pay you to live your life. It was just supposed to be a starting job, but we're seeing this upendedness of the employment in fast food, and now it's getting to the place where there's a lot more seniors working in fast food. Yeah, it's getting really interesting. But now there's robots and all kinds of things like that. It's going to get tough as we go on. So anyway, let's take a look at this. What we end up seeing here is an example of our apartment. And what we see is our housing for our apartment. We sold our house in the United States, and what we ended up doing was buying an apartment in cash. So we don't have a mortgage, but all we have is property tax, and our property tax is $16 a month. In other words, it's about $200 a year compared to the $2,600 that we're paying in the United States. Our apartment fee is a monthly fee that pays for elevator maintenance and pays for landscaping, upkeep, and so on and so forth, security. We have underground parking. Really beautiful apartment complex. It is really, really nice. And that's $175 a month. Our electricity per month is about $37 a month. Sometimes in the summer it'll go up a little bit. Water and sewer is $10 a month. Trash is included in this apartment fee. Gas that we use for heating for the floor, because the heat comes up through the floor and the gas is used to heat water. That comes out to $64 a month. And then for high-speed internet and 250 channels of cable TV, albeit most of the channels are in Korean, but there are a handful of American, movie channels and TV stations and news stations and things like that. That's only $30 a month. We have our 2 cell phones. We paid off our Apple phones, and to get unlimited service here in Korea for 2 cell phones, it ends up it's $80 a month. Korea, the water's okay. I don't have a problem with it, but a lot of people have water filter service, and that comes down to about $9 a month. So we do that, and it makes the coffee and lattes taste better. Other expenses that we end up having is we pay for Spotify, we have VPN Express, we have Amazon Prime, we have Apple, with some storage and things like that. So our total expense is $462 a month, somewhere around there. And it can vary a little bit from here to there, but that's generally what we're looking at. It's about $460 to $500 a month for those expenses. Now, granted, we had and paid for our apartment, a 4-bedroom, 2-bath apartment with a semi-private elevator, underground parking, security. There's a convenience store down below. There's a little fast food place. There's laundry. There's a gym at the apartment complex that we have, even though I don't like it. I'd rather go on post to the military base, and it's free. Oh, by the way, the gym is like $5,000 a month. So if you're looking at, let me pull this up. I think it's like $5,000 or 5,001 a month, and you divide that by 13. Let me see. Oops. So 5,001 divided by 1350. So you're looking about $4 a month for the gym access. And, it's a small gym. It's got some machines. It's got some dumbbells. It's got some, some cardio equipment, a yoga room, but that's about it. But still, it's like $4 a month. And so really you're looking at about $500 a month for our expenses. And that's not counting our car or gas. That's a whole nother thing there. But yeah, it's compared to the United States, think about the expenses that you pay for your housing. What is your property tax if you paid off your house? Now, if we're talking about housing and renting, the house that we owned in the United States, if we were renting that, if we were going to rent that, it was going to be about $2,700, maybe $3,000, because it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. Again, 5-piece master bath, oversized garage, bullnose corners, on a golf course, the whole 9 yards. It was a pretty nice. We got a screaming deal on it, but you're looking at probably $2,700 to $3,000 a month. That's kind of insane. The other thing we're going to take a look at is comparing the expenses between. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger, so we can see what's going on. And there we go. We can see that housing and rent was $2,000. Now, this was back at the time when we had left Korea or left the United States to go overseas, and we spent like a year in Hawaii, and then we came to Korea. So the rent price there of $2,000 is woefully low. It should be like $2,700 now, which I checked, $2,700 to $3,000 a month. Here in Korea, for our apartment that we have, if we rented this out, it would be $1,400 a month. Our house was a 3 bedroom, 2 bath. It was about 3,400 square feet, had an unfinished basement where we had our gym. But, it was comparing those two things in regards to rent. Korea is definitely cheaper. Now, one caveat I will say is it depends on where you rent. If you're in Seoul, which is the mecca of Korea, there's no way. We live about 2 hours south of Seoul, and we're in a smaller city that is close to a military base. So the rent is a little bit high because we're close to a military base, and there is a rental market here. But it all depends on where you live. So you have to take that into consideration. Property tax in the United States, we're paying about $165 a month. Of course, that's old. It's gotten even more. But now here in Korea, our property tax is $16 a month. Electricity was $140 a month versus $40 here in Korea. So less than half is what we're paying. Gas and heat in the United States was like $90, $100 a month. Here in Korea, it's $65 a month. Water in the United States. You'd think water would be the cheapest thing around, but it was $40 a month, and here in Korea it's $10 a month. Trash, we were paying $20 a month here in Korea, part of our apartment fee that we talked about before. It's included. There's like no separate thing. It's just a thing it's automatically included. Internet in the United States was minimum $75 a month, and here in Korea, bam. Bundled service, $15 a month. Cable TV in the United States, when we kind of bare bones it, was $135 a month. And eventually we got to the place of where it kept going up and up, and we were like, screw that, we're just not going to have it. But when we got to Korea, we found out that $15 a month, we could get 250 channels of Korean TV with some U.S. movie channels and TV and news stations and things like that. It was only $15 a month. Again, the cell phone service, we're looking about half. Car insurance. Car insurance is interesting because it ends up that it's almost on par with the United States. We're saving a little bit of money. And matter of fact, we just redid our policy here in Korea for our car so that $110 a month isn't applicable because we're retired. We don't do a lot of driving compared to Korean standards. So they said, yeah, you guys don't drive a lot at all, so we're going to lower your rates. So our rate is almost $100 a month for our car. So what you can end up seeing is the difference between these two. Total in Colorado is $2,700, basically $3,000 versus $1,800 here in Korea. So the difference is substantially less here in Korea than what we end up seeing in the United States. Let's take a look at transportation, if I could bring this over here. And dun dun dun. What we ended up doing when we got here was a Hyundai Sonata. We bought it for $12,000. Again, monthly insurance now is about just less of $100. Gas, we buy our gas on post at the military base because I'm a retired veteran. So it's about $35, $40 a tank. If it's off post, you're going to pay about double. So that's about $145 a month. So with our apartment, our utilities, our vehicle, it's about $607 without food or entertainment or eating out or things like that. So yeah, it's a very big difference in regards to some of the things that we can take a look at. Let's see, we did that one. So really what it comes down to, can Americans afford to retire overseas? Can you afford to retire in the United States? That's the big question. And from what I'm seeing, a lot of seniors are saying, no, we're not going to be able to. We have more and more seniors and more surveys that are showing that Americans that are either at or close to retirement age are putting off retirement 5 or 10 years, or they're considering just working until they die. Now, granted, a lot of this comes into play is that did you prepare for a retirement? And unfortunately, the majority of Americans have not prepared for a retirement. Now, the good thing is a lot of Americans have worked enough to get Social Security. So there are countries where you can retire overseas where your Social Security can allow you to retire and make it and even save some money. Some of those countries would be like Philippines, Thailand, maybe Bali, Portugal. There's, South American countries. I wouldn't do Mexico personally because of the crime and the cartels and all of that stuff. That's just going to get worse and worse. But South America, there are some places, and some are more expat friendly than other places. Like I said, for Korea, the only reason we were able to retire here in Korea is because my wife is of Korean ancestry, so that allows us to have a visa to do so. For the everyday Joe and Jane Q public from the United States, you can't really come to Korea and say, I want to retire in Korea, unless you have millions and millions of dollars and you invest millions of dollars into a Korean company or whatever. It's far way outside the normal everyday people, working people like you and me. So yeah, the exception for us is that Korea and where we retired at is not a normal retiree-friendly destination as other countries like Thailand, Philippines, and those other places that I mentioned. But those other places still have expenses that are way less than what we see in the United States in a lot of places. So it might behoove you to take some time and end up looking at retirement and especially doing projections and say, okay, well, am I in the house? How much am I paying for rent? Or how much am I paying for property tax if it's paid off? What are my expenses? And what is it, the increase, yearly increase for the last 5 years, and get an average and kind of do a projection of, where you're going to be about the time you hit retirement and see if that's doable. If it's not, an opportunity might exist to the point of where checking out overseas retirement could be a possibility. Now, for a lot of people, it is, and it works for them. There's also stories on the other side of the coin where people hate being overseas, and again, it depends on where you go. If you're like somebody who likes the four seasons, spring, summer, winter, and fall, you want the snow, you want the changing of the leaves, and the cold weather, and nice spring, and then maybe decent summer. If you go to a place like the Philippines, which is generally a tropical environment all year round with rainy season, and that's and a dry winter season, you're not going to get those four seasons that you're used to. So that can make some people miserable. Again, do you want to live out in the country? Do you want to live in the city? Do you want amenities that are close by? Or are you okay with, having a long travel to get to the hospital? And I will say, as a senior, I'm going to be 58 this year, having access to medical care and hospitals and some of the amenities that come with more citified city life, it's kind of comforting in your older age. So yeah, you can live out in the country and be off grid in some of these places to retire early and pay even less, but you're going to have your own obstacles and things that you're going to have to overcome. So again, you need to make an intelligent decision. And here's something I get from a number of people. People see my story, the story of my wife and I, and how we just sold everything, took a couple of suitcases, and boom, we ended up here in Korea. And they're like, well, wow, why didn't you, how did you do that? And, we sold everything. And matter of fact, we had timed it. We sold stuff in, garage sales. We did Facebook Marketplace to get rid of everything. And it was absolutely crazy. We donated a lot of stuff to ministries and secondhand stores that cared for inmates and their babies that, as the women are in prison, I can't remember the name of the organization that it was, but that's the ministry that they did. So the money and the funds that they get would go to taking care of babies of incarcerated women. So that was, I'd never do Salvation Army. That's just terrible. But I digress. So we had timed it to the point where we sold the house and we were done. The house was empty, and the next day we were able to fly out to go overseas. So, it was. Will that happen for everybody? Absolutely not. Will there be times of stress? Absolutely. Selling and getting rid of everything that you own, and narrowing it down to one suitcase or two suitcases with maybe 50, 70 pounds each is a daunting task. And as humans, we get attached to stuff. I have a lot of stuff. Since we moved and we retired here, I have accumulated a lot of stuff. But it pales in comparison to the amount of stuff that I had in the United States. I mean, I had guns, I had ammo, I was a prepper, emergency prepping supplies and food and the whole nine yards. We had clothes and TVs and, hobby stuff and everything in the garage. And you really get attached to that stuff. And so when you sell off this stuff, it becomes a stressful event. And so when you do that, you and your spouse will have times of stress. You will kind of bicker back and forth because you don't know how to deal with the stress. But eventually that will pass. And just be patient with each other is what it comes down to. Realize the situation, take the time to relax, and realize that, hey, this is going to be an adventure, and in adventures, there are ups and downs. Other than that, before you do what we did, here's another caveat. A disclaimer is that we had spent a lot of time in Korea before we retired in Korea. So it's not like we just kind of spun a globe and our fingers stopped on Korea and say, oh, we're going to go retire in Korea. I had been to Korea many times during the military. I met my wife here in Korea. We lived here for many years. So we already had our feet on the ground for many years, and we knew where we wanted to retire to. We had the wife's family over here, so we wanted to be close, but not that close. And we had already kind of picked out some apartments online. I've got a video you can check out of how to look for housing and apartments using Naver Real Estate and the Chrome browser, which has a translation plugin so that everything that's in Korean is translated into English, fair enough, to kind of narrow down your search for housing. But yeah, you're going to have some ups and downs, but we spent a lot of time here and we knew what we wanted. So how does this compare to people that never left the United States and are considering overseas retirement? Do I suggest that people just sell everything and go to that country? Absolutely not. What I suggest is you take a vacation and don't go to the resorts, but go to the areas of where expats live in that country and just rent an Airbnb for a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it is, and talk to some expats and find out, well, what is it like to, ask the landlords, well, how much is this and that, and where is shopping, where is medical, because all of these things that are new and exciting, and you're like, ooh, we get to retire overseas. Ooh, look at the pretty birds and the foliage and this and that, and the new culture. That will all fade, and you will get back to a normal life where it's like, okay, where's the grocery store? Where's the hospital? Where can I get medical care? How do I pay my bills? And the normal stuff, because there's going to be that adjustment period. How do we do banking? And you're going to get into all of that. But eventually you're going to settle down into a normal life and you will be retired. So the next thing that comes into play is, what are you going to do when you're retired? And I think that's even a big question. Whether you retire overseas or in the United States or anywhere, do you have a plan for your retirement life? Being in the military and retiring from the military, we were taught that, as you retire, the longer you spend in the military, the greater chances you have of getting a heart attack and stroke. And the rule of thumb was, through the counselors, is that if you could make it in 5 years without having one of those, you're pretty much good. But they recommended that you have a plan, that you work, that you have hobbies, that you have, that you keep yourself busy, that you have structure to your life. That people that were involved in high stress jobs that suddenly retire and have no stress, the body can't adjust to that, and so it freaks out and has a stroke or a heart attack. And there's a lot of people that I knew, sergeant majors and first sergeants and senior ranking officers, that they spent 25, 30 years in the military and they retire, and a few months later, boom, they're dead because they didn't do anything. So that is another important requirement, and I do say it's a requirement, is that you have to have a plan for your retirement. What are you going to do? Sure, you're going to go to sleep, you're going to eat, you're going to drink, you're going to shower, you're going to do all the normal things that normal people do, but what are you going to do with the 8 or 10, 12 hours a day of free time? Because if you don't have activities to do, that can drive you insane for some people. For me personally, I like going to the gym. The wife likes going to the gym. We do that like every other day. We take a couple days off, and then we do the cycle again. And, we take our time. We spend about, 2 hours at the gym. We hit the sauna at the same time. We do cardio, the whole 9 yards. So our morning that we go work out, pretty much our morning is gone, and we filled that block with just going to the gym. Now then we go to restaurants, we have some meals, we come home, we eat, we'll go to coffee shops, or I'll make, lattes here at the house, whatever we do. I do resin printing, I do miniature painting and models and things like that, which is kind of cool. This is my little alien dude here. But I do a number of hobbies that keep me occupied. And of course I make these videos. So this is me doing things so that I don't have a heart attack and stroke. Of course, we binge watch some movies and TV shows. The wife loves to read. I read a little bit, do a lot of online stuff. So, we take some day trips and travel around Korea, and we don't take trips that are really expensive, but even just getting out in the car and just driving around and finding a new coffee shop. Coffee shops are really big in Korea and in some other countries where you don't go just to get coffee like Starbucks and boom and leave. You go to get your coffee, and you go to sit down in a relaxing atmosphere, and you talk and you enjoy each other, and it's a whole different world outside of the United States, at least from our perspective. So, but you definitely have to have a plan on what you're going to do. Now, for some people, that might involve doing nonprofit or volunteer service. There's people here in Korea that help out with orphanages. They help out with abandoned babies that were turned over to the state from unwed mothers and so on and so forth. So, there's working with seniors. There's working with the poor. There's just a lot of different activities that you can do in the United States that you can also do overseas. There's some people that I know that are involved in animal rescue here in Korea. So, pretty much you just need to find something that interests you. And the problem is, I think for me, is that I was so focused on work and high stress jobs of the military and working for the state of Colorado and corrections and electronics and so on and so forth, working in prisons and so on and so forth, was so high stress that I didn't give myself time. I didn't give myself that opportunity to have a lot of outside activities to help relieve that stress. And so when a lot of people in the Department of Corrections and or the military retire, they're at a loss of what do I do? And I think if you plan, and like painting miniatures and printing miniatures, that was something that I didn't think I would ever do. But I got into printing and I got into painting miniatures, and it's not something that I ever thought, I did it way back when I was a kid, back in the early 80s, playing Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. And then I just I didn't really paint anything. But I just left all that stuff aside when I got into the workforce because I was an adult. Well, when you retire, you need to find something to do as an adult. So find some hobbies, find some activities. Maybe it's learning to play a musical instrument, maybe, guitar, piano, or whatever. Maybe it's art. There's just a whole plethora of things that are available out there. Just jump into one and try it. So, just sitting back and the idea of retiring and just drinking beer all day and watching the sunset it's not feasible and it's not realistic. It isn't. For some people, that's it. But, I don't think being a functioning alcoholic is a good retirement choice. That's just my opinion. If you want to, you can do that. But our lives can be more fulfilled by having activities, and we can have a more how should I put it, a more complete life, a more fulfilling life if we start doing some activities and things that will enrich our lives. Things that we couldn't do while we were working because we were working and working for the man. So, yeah, a lot comes into play when we talk about retirement. And the end question, can Americans in 2024 afford to retire? For the majority of them, probably not. But granted, when you retire overseas, you have to have some type of income stream. So whether that's Social Security, whether it's a military pension or a pension, maybe it's some retirement account or some dividend funds that you've had invested. But a lot of people, according to the articles and the surveys, don't have a lot of that. They'll have like Social Security and maybe a pension, but they won't be able to retire in the United States. So overseas is a possible option, and one that I think everybody should at least deep dive into and consider that as a possible retirement option. The one thing I can say is that with us, retiring overseas allowed us to retire early. Because like I said, we were going to have to, based on the projections and the expenses and all of that, I would have to work until I was about 70 until I could retire. Retiring overseas, when you saw my expenses, it definitely put the retirement overseas in a more favorable light just based on expenses alone. Granted, there's going to be some adjustment period, and you have to learn new banking and new billing and new this and that, and then the end of life considerations. Well, what happens if I die? What happens if the wife dies before me? Am I just stuck here in Korea? What about our visas? All of that. So there's going to be some more hurdles that you're going to have to jump through and learn. But in the grand scheme of things, in the big picture, it's paid off for us. We would rather be retired overseas than stuck working in the United States and not being able to retire. So that's just our story. So anyway, that's the question. Can Americans afford to retire in 2024? For a lot, no. But if they can retire overseas with Social Security or a small pension, it is an opportunity for something that they can do. And there are more and more seniors are considering retiring overseas. And it doesn't have to be Korea. Again, Korea is a place where, it's particular because I have a Korean spouse. That's what it comes down to. But you have a lot of other countries out there that don't have that requirement, and all you need is a monthly income stream that is provable through tax returns and statements, bank statements, and so on and so forth. Some countries, you just need to have a certain amount of money in a bank in that foreign country, and you're allowed. You still have to have some type of income stream because you have to live. But again, there's different requirements for different countries. And once you start looking into these things, you'll find out that there's more opportunities to retire overseas than there is in the United States. So that's the good news. Anyway, if you got any questions, put that in the comment section down below. I'd really appreciate that. And to do the YouTube algorithm, and on my YouTube channel, I do a little bit of fitness stuff. Do the resin printing, I do the miniature painting. It's a mishmash of a lot of different things. So we just kind of throw that all onto the Varied Life YouTube channel, and along with retirement overseas stuff like this video. So that's going to be it for today. I have to get some food, and I'm going to make a latte, and we're just going to kind of enjoy the day. I'm going to hit the gym because we didn't go yesterday. So I'm going to hit the gym today and kind of relax and hit the sauna and do all that good stuff, and then come back and I think we'll end up going to a coffee shop and just kind of enjoy each other's company. So with that being said, like, subscribe, appreciate it. Leave some comments on what you think about retirement overseas versus the United States. Is it something that you would consider? All right, that's it. We'll see you on the next video. Peace.